Hello, this is Carlos Casados with Hypnotherapy Breakthrough. And I'm not sure if you can see this on the video or not. I haven't posted it yet, but over there it says, "What we think, we become." It's a quote from Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the Buddha, the awakened one. I have it on my wall because it's very relevant to what I do. So, as the title of this channel suggests, I'm a hypnotherapist. Um, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But what I want to focus on specifically today is not just about hypnosis per se, but about just a general idea of change work. Like when we do personal growth workshops, seminars, when we see a life coach, when we, see a hypnotherapist, um, a lot of the idea is that we want to change a behavior, right? We want to resolve a fear or enhance our creativity or tap into resources that we have that we believe are deep down inside of us. Another aspect of that relates to the quote. So there's this idea that what we think, we become. To a large extent, this is very true because we are not seeing the world as it is. We are seeing the world as we are. I think that might be Gandhi who said that. I'm not sure. Point is, it's a commonly stated aphorism, and it's very true. We're always bringing ourself into every situation, no matter what. So there's no such thing as a story-free reality. You've got a story no matter what. That story goes with you, and to the degree that your story shapes your reality, well, let me back up. To the degree that you are aware of how the story affects your reality is a degree of ability we have to make changes to it. If you're not even aware that things are a story, if you think that your version of events is the way it is rather than it's the way you're perceiving it or projecting or taking it, if you're not aware of how that works or that you're even doing it, it means you don't really have a lot of influence over it. And at the end of the day, I think what many of us are seeking is only really found when we become more empowered. So let's talk about what empowered means. There's this idea of having power over others and power within yourself. And sometimes when we hear about power, we think about things like the ability to command others to do things, right? To have it our way. That's not really what I'm talking about. Other kinds of power might be like physical lifting power, this power of the physical strength that you have, or mental processing power, right? The ability to calculate numbers and analyze things. Lots of different kinds of power, power of charisma, right? But empowerment is really the process of accepting full responsibility for your condition to the degree that you're capable of, and accepting that you are ultimately looking to have more agency. What is agency? Agency is our ability to have effect in the world, to be able to create change. To the degree you can do that is how much agency you have. So an empowered person who accepts their condition, accepts and understands and acknowledges what is, and accepts themselves and their responsibility, their decision to be living at cause for what's going on in their life, is those things themselves are what create the ability to feel empowered as you move forward. So you move forward with a sense of, I may not control everything in the universe, but I certainly control what goes on in my internal universe. I control my subjective response to things, and my perception is part of my response. It's just the part of my response that is relatively unconscious. Let me back up and say that again. My perception is part of my response, because there's a saying we have in NLP, which is perception is also projection. We're always bringing ourselves to the situation, and we are projecting forward into every situation those aspects of ourselves, whether conscious or unconscious, that allow us to shape the meaning of what just happened. Okay? So the meaning is something that we are creating, whether you're conscious of it or not. Remember what I said. We don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. That's very true. Because how could we have perfect perception? Even if we did, there are limitations to how good our perception is, even if it's perfect within that range. You know, your eyes can only see certain frequencies, your ears can only hear certain frequencies. And then, you know, that's true for all of our senses, but it's also true about your brain and your brain's capacity to understand what it's perceiving. They say, science being they, that it's possible that your sinus cavities, your nasal nerve cells and everything can detect maybe even up to 1 trillion particles. But do you think you have 1 trillion words to describe those particles? Hell no. You know, it's the same thing with eyes. We have the capacity, they say, under the right conditions to detect single photons of light. Whether that's true or it's mostly true, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But that's what I've read. And do you think we walk around with that understanding in our head and that we're able to always see that? No. So there's a large degree of our perception which is inside our thinking, inside our presuppositions of what we believe is true. And if you walk in with a situation, or you walk into a situation with a belief, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to see it, there's a high degree of probability that you will not, simply because you believe you won't. Or let's say you're walking into a situation with a sense of judgment, you know, believing that someone's got it out for you. Now you're going to be looking for it. Now that person's going to sense you believing that. Now it's going to change their behavior. It's going to feel a little weird potentially. They may pick up on that. Do you think that doesn't influence the event that you're walking into? Of course it does. So perception is also projection. We are projecting into what it is we're perceiving. It is not a one-way street. It is a two-way street, at least. In physics, they do talk about the observer-created, experience, right? That the observation of the person who's looking and the expectations cause changes in the quantum level. Now, I'm not suggesting a one-for-one relationship between quantum physics and psychology, but I am saying it's a great metaphor there. You know, we can use this metaphor and see that, okay, there are other examples of this, you know. So when we are thinking about how what we think we become, right, there's a famous formula that relates to this. There's actually two famous formulas that relate to this. One of them is more complicated than the other. The one that I know of, I think, has its origins with Neil Donald Walsh, I believe. Could be wrong about that, but I think it's from him. It's this idea of be, do, and have. And that relates specifically to people doing change work like myself, because we grow up with the idea that that we have to do and have a bunch of things before we can be something. So, for example, school and authorities at school and parents and teachers will say, you know, you need to do all the schooling, you got to get your certificates, you got to get your diplomas, and then, you know, you'll get this and you'll get this, and then you'll be a person like a doctor or a teacher or whatever it is you're going to be. You know, go and, you know, have your wife and your kids and your home and everything, then you're going to be a family man. Well, it's the opposite in my experience. It's the opposite when you come from the perspective of my profession. We take a look at those kinds of basic presuppositions and challenge them, because that's our job. To challenge those basic presuppositions when they're a problem. If it's not a problem, we don't challenge it. But if you look at children, and you ask a children, we say, hey, Bobby, what are you going to be when you grow up? You know, and Bobby says, an astronaut, you know, and we go, oh, that's so sweet, it's so cute, and we just don't even take it seriously half the time. Well, I got news for you. If little Johnny or Bobby or whatever I just said actually role plays deeply enough, and there's enough impetus, enough energy and motivation to keep doing that, do you think that you'd have to convince Bobby or Johnny, okay, I still can't remember what name I just said, do you think you'd have to convince that child to study math? Do you think you have to prompt them all the time to stay in shape and to eat healthy? Do you think you have to encourage them to be good at science, or do you think that their own internal motivations would be enough? I, as a professional hypnotherapist, would argue that the stronger they are role playing, the more desire and craving they have to be that, the stronger their own internal, intrinsic motivation will be to do all the things that an astronaut would do so that they're in better position to apply at NASA. So, yes, children sometimes say things and then they change their mind. So what? It's okay to change your mind as many times as you need to. But deciding who you want to be is really the most important thing you can do towards making major headway in being who you need to be, so that you'll start doing all the things that you need to do, so that you'll eventually have the results that you want. Get it? Now, that's not a complicated idea. But in essence, all the processes in NLP and hypnosis and all these kinds of change work modalities are designed to deeply convince you and to help you to step into the role of being this person that you want to be. So trust in that. If you're not used to trusting it, it's not your fault. You were raised with the idea that you had to get a bunch of things, have a bunch of things, and then do a bunch of things. Then you could finally be that thing. Don't believe it. It's a trap. Don't believe it. Step into who you want to be first, even if you don't really fully understand what that is. So, for example, I don't know what it's like to be a tour guide. But if that were important to me, I'd start to imagine what it might be like. I might start doing research and reading stories about people who do it. I might start Googling and asking questions. It's, how does one become a tour guide? And I start to look at the role, what's important in order to do that. And I can still, if I feel resistance around it, I check in with the resistance. Where's that resistance coming up? But until I start pretending very strongly that I am that, I'm not going to know where the resistance is. So it's the best policy is to step into who you're going to be first and start to explore, where does this feel incomplete? Where am I feeling resistance to it? What is missing that I could add that would make this more real? So be, do, have. When you use hypnosis and you step into guided imagery, or you step into the physiological feelings of something, you are anchoring in those feelings, reshaping the way you think and ultimately how you feel, which is going to motivate you to do something different. And if you're not happy with the way things have been going, well, there's your process. You need to do something different, and you're not going to do something different if you don't feel like doing something different. And you're not going to feel like doing something different if you're not being a different person. If you're not actually stepping into the identity, the role play of what that would be like. Okay, that's all I have to share for you with you for now. I hope that's helpful. If you have questions, share it. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please click the subscribe button, because that'll help. And you can click the little notification bell if you want to get informed of any new videos. Then you'll get a little notification saying that there's a new video. Thanks for your attention and your time. I hope you have a wonderful new year, and looking forward to hearing from some of you. Thanks.